Manhood, brought to you in part by Lucozade and Solomon Bespoke.
This is Manhood. We're going straight into the topic is music and manhood. Music and manhood. A lot to unravel here. So we're going straight into the convo. To my right, Stryker, media personality. To his right, man who definitely needs no introduction, Isasha. And to his right, Sonny Bling. So many hats, so many titles. I know he was giving me some talk about my ball head and all that in the break, but you wear so many hats. Maybe I need to wear a hat myself at this point, but I rock in the ball head. And they say, part of the convo today, you don't have to dread to be Rasta.
Yes, right.
But today we having a conversation from the perspective of not just your philosophical conversations that we've had, but also something that you've pioneered in this country that I would like to see you've pioneered, and I'm sure most of us would agree, in Rip the Glue, which is a big segment, one that I certainly look forward to every Sunday. And I just wish, and I'm saying it on the air, I just wish you'd do a playlist.
It's in the
right?
making, it's in the making.
Right? So do a playlist, and it's about time, right? One. If I had to purchase it, I wouldn't bootleg it then. I wouldn't bootleg it. I will pay for it.
I'll believe you on that one.
To say that, and part of the conversation in music and manhood is one of the opening things that I'd like to have a discussion on is the persona of a real man in the reggae world. But before we go into that, one of the things that I found in conversations, even doing research coming into the show, talking about reggae music and bringing, a reggae icon in Trinidad and Tobago like yourself, Isasha, and of course your brother, God rest his soul, Million Voice. I asked myself, is it something that's being lost, or is it, or should I say, is it as prominent as it used to be? Because I'm sure there's music that's still being made, but is it as prominent with the new generation as it used to be? What has happened, if at all, or is it just something that I feel it in my own little space?
Right. For me personally, I'll say that in the past 5 years, I have observed that reggae music not hitting the way it used to hit before. Is it still prominent? Yes, very prominent. Music still coming out all the time. A lot of artists dropping music locally and internationally, but somehow I just find the music not resonating the same way it used to. We could say maybe programming on radio stations could be part of playing that. The change in the way young people consume music now could be a part of that as well, because not just the Trinidad and dancehall, but just dancehall on the whole and the music that they are more into, and the way they listen to music now. So maybe they're not into reggae music as they were before. Another point I would look at is, I think some of the new artists maybe not holding it down foundation-wise the way it used to be done before. So, for instance, in recent times, when we look at Chronics and Coffee, they jump on the scene within the last 8 years or so, to me, and they came with a nice, refreshing sound that say, yeah, boy, reggae is back, you know what I mean? That vibe, and then boom, within a couple of years, they both disappeared. So I'm really not certain what would have taken place within the industry within the past few years, but to me, in the last 5 at least, reggae has not been as solid on the ground as it used to be before. And maybe Isasha could say a little more on that.
But before you go in there, Isasha, let me ask you something. Because reggae music to me was always a conscious, cool connection. You're there and you feel one with the music. Yes, the lyrics were there, but it really didn't matter what the lifestyle of the person was, or whether they were true to Rasta, true to being Rasta, so to speak. It was really a vibe.
That's good music.
It's just good music. So the fact that do people really care, or is it the generation now that they're so conscious, no pun intended, that if you're not true to the lyrics of your song, they abandon that?
Can't answer that question directly, so boy, I think it's not just a vibe with the music though. I really say it's more consciousness and spirituality, because that's what I would get out of reggae music personally as a youth man coming up the route. And now I connected with reggae music on more of a spiritual level, because it kept me. To me, reggae music is a God praise music, Generally, to me, from youth, I always look at it as a God praise music. So we could go from Sizzler, come down, or even like somebody I love the most, like a Luciano. Most of his songs is literally like he praying. When Luciano performing on a stage, he going down on his knees and performing on a stage, like he literally lifting up the word of God while he performing.
It's a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
Is a frequency. To me, I would say this not only going on in Trinidad, it's going on in the world, you know.
Right.
Because we are not the only artists complaining right now. You're getting it from the same Jamaican artists and them where they find like, you know, the music just died down, you know, and as Sonny say, and as you say, the music never stopped. People still recording, you know. I believe the radio stations and them, and we as artists, we need to do more visuals, just keep being in people's face, you know, pushing that positive, pushing that consciousness, not waiting until 2 people dead and then die the day, 2 days they playing reggae music. We Isasha and them, we King David and them boy, with them man and them. And that is where I does kind of thing. So, Rip the Glue, as I was telling Sonny earlier on, the country needed Rip the Glue. And Rip the Glue is marijuana, but yet still you will get plenty foundation music we ain't hear in a while. Like when I hear them man them playing culture, I like, way, you know how long me hear them thing on radio, and that's what the country need. We need more stations.
Was it from when you're saying that? Are you saying we ain't here from a viewpoint of nostalgia, or what the music, like if you take that same tune, like, you know, for example, I'm looking at all the people that are going to watching you, the Michael Jackson biopic.
Everybody running it down.
Right? Everybody running it down. All of a sudden you see he back at the top of the charts. Yeah. The sales are there because the man was the king of pop, the genius of that music. Is it that the music, do you feel that the music could stand on its own? Not like, you know, like we've had Bob Marley and these people who, culturally, I'm just saying that when in university and things, people used to feel cool by listening to Bob Marley. So on a global stage, do you think that the music could stand on its own globally to reach maybe levels and that feeling like a Michael Jackson, like how we see it, if we were to bring back all that music to the new person that it's not nostalgic to?
I think it could.
I feel it done do that already. The Ganja Planta is one of the biggest tunes, but I mean worldwide. Same thing with the Don't You Know, same thing with Melody. You know, it's just, we need more of it. Not on just Sonny and them program alone. We need more of it.
What I observe with the music too, and we can't really take it for granted, is the power of the music as we mentioned now and how it resonates through the generations, right? So you mentioned Michael Jackson, and my 7-year-old, for instance, just last week we in the car going down the road, and because of cartoons and different shows where they put some of the music in, the children would know 1 or 2 of the songs based on the shows that they would watch, so they heard a song or 2 before. So my daughter done no Thriller. She's 7 years old and she don't know Thriller now. So I was like, hey, you know this song? And we sit down a day on the YouTube and go into school and I play out a whole Michael Jackson playlist. And my daughter now at 7 years old is a bigger Michael Jackson fan than anything else. And same thing I could say for even Bob Marley. You know what I mean? Bob Marley passed away before my timing, and my children would sing about Marley easily. You know, so in essence, there is a way that the music reaches, is how the music is being fed. So, and I saw something actually online just last week where the guy was saying that the days of having a stereo system in the house has gone. Yeah. People don't even listen to that stereo set in your house again. And the way you consume music.
You might have a little Amazon Echo box.
So for instance, and then for me personally, even like generally with artists, I would tell artists, if an artist says, Sonny Bling, have a song, boy, listen to this on my phone, I usually tell artists no. Because I can never really feel your music by listening to it through a phone, right? True. But then if we look at the way the world is today, everybody consumes music via more or less their phones, right? Yeah. And to me, I don't think you're really getting the fullness of the music by listening to your phone. As opposed to when you're in your house. You remember a long time your mother wake you up out your bed with a Ella Andel playing in that house. You felt Ella Andel in your house.
Thank you.
So when you hear, when you're in your bed and you hear that, bring down the power of love, everybody. That was never going to sound the same when I had phones or phone, you know what I mean? So I think a big part of it is the music that we're being brought up on now.
You really touch on something there that just occurred, you know, when people say things, they don't realize how it dawns on you. Like when you said you really do have stereo.
Nobody has a stereo.
Stereo is not, you know, like, you know.
Stereo.
Correct. You know, JBLs, and you want to crank it, you want to hear that bass, and you hear your dance, all your reggae.
And here's why I look at that. Here's why I look at that as well too. The stereo set was the stereo set in the home, that particular area in the home where the set was, to me was somewhat of a library, you know. Because in my home, my father was a man listening to,
Record,
he listened to
cassette.
pan,
Right.
so he had pan cassette, he
book.
had record. When they started travel, they used to bring back CDs, right? So the little area where the music was set
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah.
library.
Library.
So for me now, I know I could have gone pull, and they mentioned Ray Holman was a guest on the program. I remember my father had a Ray Holman album. I could go and listen to a Ray Holman album. I could listen to Janet Jackson's latest album. I could go and listen to Michael Jackson. I could go and
Yeah.
listen to the best of the 80s, because these
Yeah.
are the things that these were the music albums or the library of music that my parents used to stock in the house. So my musical library personally was real wide, because I always knew, well, yeah, boy, I know this type of music. I could groove to that and understand the message in music. And music to me, just like we talking reggae on the whole, music on the whole to me is about a message.
Always.
If people tell me that music cannot influence you, I believe that's a lie. I don't think it's fair to say music is not influential to make people do different things. If you're driving down the highway listening to a slow, chances are the man behind you might be popping your horn because you're driving too slow. If you're going down there listening to Vibes Cartel and depending on your mood, you might get a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not that Cartel say the speed, but the vibe.
vibe, yeah,
bring out
yeah.
a certain type of energy.
Frequency,
You know what I mean?
No, but
Yeah,
think
it's
about
true.
it. When you're doing a race or anything like that, is that those AirPods or even in your ear
Yeah.
could determine sometimes whether I feeling tired or not, whether I completing that 10K and in what time, or any kind of activity. But as you said about a stereo and you said about the library and the archive, it's almost like now when you go into somebody's house, the part that impresses you or that you look to is now the size of your flat screen TV.
Right.
Whereas back in the day, it would have been the stereo. You want to see how much speakers you have, what bass that kick in, the various levels, well, equalizer.
Playing
and
the
all.
equalizer, like
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what you're
yeah.
doing, you don't know what you're doing.
No idea. You just make
Yeah.
sure you go with the V at the end, you know, and make sure set up the bass on the heights.
But allow me to interject with something.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to tap off some of what Sonny and Sasha said. The way that this generation consumes music is very different. And I was listening a lot to what they were saying, and I remember when Sasha himself was now emerging. Thankfully, I was a part of that movement with Studio 53 as a youth. So I saw it. As a matter of fact, I get in trouble for them fellas. Because just what they're saying, I used to carry my father
Studio 53.
music and boxes down there for them to chant on. And I had an answer when I go, where you carry
more
my
music,
thing.
yeah,
You understand? But I saw something happen at that time, because while the reggae movement was building and they had a dread momentum, which contributed to why it was so prevalent at that time, it also coexisted at the same time with Passa Passa. Because Studio 53 itself would have a reggae vibes on a Friday, and they might have a Passa Passa Saturday.
Right.
So the Trinidad and the reggae could coexist. However, the reggae side of things probably requires a little more tweaking in how the music is distributed, a little more groundwork to build back that momentum. Because any break in momentum come like you had to build back off the ground again. And I think it lost that over the years.
Before we move on there, Sonny, just to say that it's just something I realized, right? And is that, you know, as we talk about reggae music being cool, and it's a cool situation to be in, right? That's why I tell you, I wanted to come up with that. Keep calling them out for this playlist,
yeah,
right?
it's coming.
Because if I know the cool reggae songs and I could go and dance or talk to somebody and talk about it, I looking cool too, like I in with it. But also I realize that you have people that, because it, of course, reggae coming from Jamaica, but of course reggae would have come from ska, and ska would have come from, if you talk to people like Sparrow and these guys,
Calypso,
ska
Kitchen and
comes
stuff
from,
like that, yeah.
so it come full circle almost. I know I might get some licks for that,
No,
but
it's facts,
but if you
it's
look
facts.
at his history, it really come from
Documented,
these
yeah.
lands, right? But yet still, when people talking reggae or anything like that, you always hear some of them is going to almost like a Jamaican accent. It's I saw a Rasta. And part of that, you know, it just to me is that whole element of why the reggae music cool. But I keep thinking that is it the nostalgia that gets you, like if you hear Buju, like Buju tune that just came out, Butterfly, you know, I hear people saying, but someone like somebody same old. But to me it's like, boy shot, you know what I mean? I ready to see, if Buju come down here 10 times in the year, I go in 10 times to see Buju, right? And I want to get to the and I know just in the excitement are going kind of all over the place with regards to that, because there's a couple things I want to unpack here. Of course, coming back into one, what we speak about with regards to the music not being as prominent maybe on the airwaves and in parties and so on like it should be. And especially the pride I feel to know that reggae music is also here in Trinidad in a big way. I mean, we keep talking about Ganja Farmer, but I mean, Isasha, your music, Yeah, anthems, Million Voice, big tunes, Prophet Benjamin, holding his own. I wouldn't say it good for Trinidad, holding his own on the reggae thing. I mean, what you gonna say this one?
I think it's very much holding their own, and we have to give it credit, right? So since maybe, let me say, the ganja planter time, which is 20 years ago to now, a lot has happened in that period, because I remember when we had the Reggae All Stars tour. I was one of the hosts on the Reggae All Stars tour, and that was something where they did like a bar stop throughout the country. And this ran for quite some time. I think it was sponsored by Guinness at the time. And that's also where corporate comes into, because having the corporate support also would help us to spread the message, right? Because yes, you might say you have a positive message and not everybody might be very much into it because maybe not what hip hop or trending, but when you have the support of corporate to help sponsor a tour, for instance, and keep spreading the positive message, you're going to have people coming out for that because that's what they want, right? Yeah. So it grew over time where a lot of artists got involved. Studio 53, big pioneers at the time as well too, in terms of supporting a lot of upcoming reggae artists or people who had that vision, and other promoters, and there were a lot of events, a lot of events, and even to this day now where that tour would have ended, we still have the same artists who are now developed, doing their own thing. Isasha has a concert coming up pretty soon. We just had Prophet Benjamin did his show recently, and that wasn't the first time he did. He does that every year.
10 years.
So artists have been doing their shows as well too to keep the pump alive. However,
there are things like Roots Yard and so on as well.
Correct. So I think in the last few years, especially like with the pandemic, when we went through that period there, I said that the pandemic was a time where hype took over talent during the pandemic.
True.
Basically. So people already wasn't about too much of the talent, meaning that everybody was on their phones and whatever was attracting you at the time in terms of hype is what people kind of gravitate into, right? And within that period as well too is when Trinidad really grew their legs and really took off. And that's not a bad thing. It's just basically that within that time that people were consuming a lot of. And in comparison to the reggae, even soca artists and Trinidad, nobody puts out more visual material than Trinidad in the past 10 years locally.
And the visuals in itself.
Right. So on the local front, that was something that I said, even reggae and soca, where were you all this time? Meaning, how did these youths pop up? And all of a sudden, they had everything that was needed to be as visual as they are.
But what would those visuals look like? Because when you talk about Trinidad and Steam, you see the visuals, right? You could probably say the three things there: the jewelry, the girls, and the gunman signs and things really nice.
And that's not even related to it. I'm just talking about unseen.
But what would reggae what would your staples be for reggae impact that are equal to see that?
Well, right. So I'm not comparing the things we see in the videos, and I'm not talking about the jewelry. I'm talking about that. I am talking about unseen as unheard. As an executive from Universal.
Every song they release, you're seeing they're doing some visuals for it.
Right.
And that is why Sonny's saying we as reggae artists, we miss on that. Where we should have take that opportunity, saying we watch them youths and them and say, what boy, ride that wave.
Is it too late?
No.
It's never too late, but at the same time, I would say basically is about the knowledge at the time, Dred. So before these guys took over the way they did visually speaking, the main deal was, boy, I need to get our music on the radio. You know what I mean? I need to get our music on the radio. Whereas the times that these youngsters they exist in now is social media. So the reggae artists in the early 2000s coming up, they didn't think about social media like that. It didn't really exist properly enough to say that, we have to use that. We didn't know. It's come like AI. You know what I mean? They really didn't know. Maybe it was coming around, but you didn't really know. So you're working what you knew at the point in time. So when these youngsters came on it, and with social media is a thing where when you jump on a new platform, when it starts, it gives you the best possible outcome. So for instance, when Instagram was to launch today and you decide, why download Instagram now? The people who jumped on it initially were the ones with the biggest following now. As opposed to the man who started a year later. Not that he cannot also dominate the platform, but they were early to it.
Like .com, Bitcoin, and all these different things. Yeah. We had to go to a break just now, and I want to really bring it back. This has been really riveting and good conversation to bring it back into what is the topic of the show, which is music and manhood. And in that, son, you raised a good point in the earlies when you said about going down the road and listening to a Vibes Cartel. You might drive faster. Yeah. So it comes back into the influence of the music on our behaviors as men, as boys, and the positive and the negative to that, which is where Trinidad and Steam may be getting, in certain cases, could be seen as an unfair reputation. Some of these songs, yes, may be violence, but there are other songs that are people just singing about the environment and what they're coming into. So before we head to the break. I don't know if you want to touch just briefly on those thoughts before we do a lot of deeper dive in the
I know against the youth, boy. I actually glad that the youngsters found a way to express themselves. Unfortunately, it came in that form that took over the minds to a degree that, but it is commonplace and this is how we're supposed to live because it's trending. But everybody finding themselves, I don't see anything wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody have to find a space, know who you are, know what you want in this life, basically,
It's not what you do, it's how you do it.
Correct.
Yeah, and I believe they kind of self-destruct themselves, but when you're talking talent, real talent, like traveling and things, you see now people, the impact Trinidad had on outside. Like you go in them Caribbean countries, you see in men marking up all different kind of numbers, all like what them was really doing, but don't know what they was doing. But at the end of the day, we need to just guide them the proper way then. Nobody probably didn't guide them.
I am certain it was never about badness, or no?
No,
I am certain these youths never wanted the world to end up in no gang thing. I'm sure it was never about that.
They could have used it as business. They could have used it as
But
business.
we see these things before, just a reference. At the end of the day, we come through that era where it was Gully Gaza. So that gunman thing was
But it
always
was
there.
business.
It was Terra Fabulous. It was Bounty Killer before.
Beenie Man, correct.
You know what I mean? And we consume that and know how to take it as just entertainment
I
value.
was just gonna say that, Stryker, because
Just
we grew up on that, like
Thank
you
you.
said, listening to
Thank
all
you.
them
Well, then
lyrics,
Bounty Killer said
but
people
we didn't
dead.
have them thing.
Yo, we
didn't
we
behave
don't
like
take it
that.
literal.
Yeah, but here's the catch though. I would say here's the catch though, right? When the Bounty Beanie, coming up the road, the Gully Gaza and thing, right? We had to be real. The crime rate in Jamaica was way more terrible than we even were thinking about here in Trinidad. We didn't have the issues crime-wise that Jamaica was facing at the time, right?
with the Gully and Gaza.
Gully Gaza, Bounty all that time. They had a lot of, remember the old shower posse, the whole
Right,
madness.
yeah,
and Jamaica had
yeah.
madness going on.
Yeah, but
And-
you ever felt compelled to go and choose a side or pick up a gun?
No,
and
but
do
here's how we
what
land
was
in
being
plane.
said?
The reality is that the artists in Jamaica at the time were literally singing about the same levels of crime and whatnot that was taking place around them. Trinidad was they literally did the same thing. We
Right.
at this point in time, Trinidad became the hub of heavy crime.
Right. So we
And
now
the
singing
artists
about
were
what's going
now
on here.
basically reflecting the
Right.
same thing. So we actually were hypocrites to fight the Trinidad youth for singing the same way that the other artists were singing. Here's the catch though. Culturally, we are different people. But, Movado and Vibes Cartel may have a war. Movado and Vibes Cartel might sing about your girlfriend and what do your girlfriend in a room. A Trinidadian artist not taking that
Taking
talk.
that, yeah.
As much as they know they were clashing, and it was music. And we also started doing the same with the music, but it became violent. It came to a head where men
So
started
it's now
clashing.
home, basically. At one point,
It
we were
reach home,
importing
yeah,
the
it
music.
reach
We were
home.
like,
It reach home.
we enjoying that music because it's not here.
Correct.
But now we singing it. It's close to home. It's now touching us.
And we were
It's in
also-
our backyard.
And we were
It
also
should
just
not,
as
it should
steamy.
not reach to that though.
I feel we missed the opportunity with the youths is instead of just making sure and inform them this is entertainment
I was
purposes
saying the
only,
proper guidance.
we allowed it to become the soundtrack for our lifestyle for what they want to do.
Yeah,
So
because
when they
I'll
want
be-
to make
I'll be
a
liar.
choice, you go and play the song because that amplifying your feelings
Right.
and sending
Right.
you down the road, it helping you make a decision.
Yeah, but I will also be a
You know
liar
what I
to say I don't like Trinidad. If I say
No,
there
come
are
on, we
songs
just
out here
consume
that
it, we
I
sing
do
it.
not like or
No,
find
no,
it
no,
a
you
real
can't say that.
vibes,
You can't
I'll be
say
a
that.
hypocrite
You
to
can't
say
say
that
that.
because the
You
music
can't
is a
say
vibe.
that. You
Even
can't
though
say that.
they have a latest one I know here with pun and I kind of maybe one by one. Sing with them, I find this song is a vibe. No,
That is the
despite
fella from Carnage.
I ain't sure, I believe so. But my point is, despite where the country is now and all that's going on, the music within itself is still a vibe. And it's the same
No, but
way.
by you saying that you like that song, is it that it is now being interpreted that you picking our side? Like we saw
Nah.
about when it being reached, when we talk about it reaching home, whereas before you say Gully and Gaza, and you could listen to that music and there's no acting out. Regardless of who
it's
was
sensitive,
playing the
sensitive.
music, with the sensitivity now, I'm saying by you simply playing that in your car, is it like, what they had the Bloods and the Crips? Is it that by you playing that song, you are now saying to yourself that
No, it doesn't say that, but
you understand what I'm saying? Like innocently.
It's
As
tricky,
a
it's
DJ,
tricky.
you gotta
It's
be
tricky.
mindful.
I don't know whether I could play
Yeah,
that
because-
song because I
yeah.
don't know if
Why?
somebody.
If you're in the wrong area and you're playing
And you
it,
played.
And that's what I'm saying. But if I play it, I just say it's a vibe. Like Sonny say like that song, I might go on and YouTube it or something
Right.
to play it, and I might say, hey, well, your song is really a vibe. Not really paying attention to the lyrics, etc. And I driving from here to south.
and
So at some point, I
name or some kind of thing.
No, you see, I think
Is
just
that
like-
gonna
just
put
like
me in a
Jamaica
danger?
vibe, right? Long time, I am certain. I remember saying that me and certain partners, we was bounty killer. And there are certain
Yeah,
partners who are
Beanie
saying
Man.
them as Beanie Man.
Yeah.
And we had partners who saying boy them as Bushu. And we had partners who saying boy them as Vibes Cartel. And who's sing. And we had that kind of banter, but it was a friendly banter, right?
Always.
However, it is now home. And again, because of the past couple of years, it reached a level of direct violence, and that is why we have to be mindful now. So yes, you could love the music knowing fully well, on anybody's side, I just find it's a vibe, I know I don't want to kill nobody.
But will you
do
play
nothing.
it or radio play it knowing that it could be associated is what I'm
But you
saying.
see,
So
that's what we have to level out the playing field. So radio now is a universal body. Radio can play anything. Radio does not put a station to be on a side if they play anybody music. They just play music, and that's the same.
But what I'm saying, Sonny, if I going down the road and at this point, this particular song playing at this particular side,
And you're driving through a community.
but right after that, I have another one that equals the playing field. But them ain't waiting to hear the next song.
Yeah.
To them is, look what that song that man playing. I'm saying, is it then dangerous for me to out loud listen to a particular set of music because I just listening to a vibe?
It came to that. I think
Yes,
it's cool
yeah.
now, but it came to that. I remember there was one time I was coming over the north coast from through Maracas, now coming through Maraval. And I was playing, I think it's the Plumpy Boss Keep Up. Remember, that was a big tune, right? When I got my windows down, I drive and playing my music hard. And I coming through Maraval. And I remember 2 youth men passing on the pavement. And men started to cuss me. Because of this big man thing, as in I passed, and I said, but go away, but I only after I realized, I said, wait, the song will make them men sing so, but I don't do nothing, what I mean. So to some, it may seem you're driving through our area, and you know the area you're driving through playing that. So they say like you're disrespecting me on purpose. And then to the innocent now is then I am actually listening to radio.
Which gonna be me.
Playing
You know what I mean? I gonna be innocent just thinking this beat real bad. And I playing it and I say, hey, because my music sounding good and I feeling cool, and next time I just drive past, or even not in a particular area, I could just be driving past particular individuals who wound up in a particular way, and I could find myself in a
We've had DJs. I remember a partner of mine, I remember a time, I think is up in seeing Barb's on the mirrors, they used to have a little party all over the place, something. And our brethren let me know playing out. A time they juggling. And again, you are DJ, you ain't studying too much, and the music playing, you're creating a vibe, and a man come up in the scene and just rest down and gun on the set and say, dog, better let's change that music, you know.
You can't play that.
You know what I mean? Better you change
really
it.
like
Like in other words, you didn't
that.
realize where it is, or better you
Yeah.
change that music.
Yeah.
But to you are delivering music. You know what I mean? And music should not have to come to that. That's the overall message there. Music shouldn't have to come to that.
So we're talking music and manhood. We're taking a short break. When we come back, of course, talking a deeper thought and also getting that question answered about the persona of a real man in the reggae world. And of course, Isasha, we had to hear about the big concert coming up.
This is manhood. We're talking music and manhood.
And before we went to the break, I asked it about 2 or 3 times, but I really want to get the answer. which is really, what is the persona of a real man in the reggae world, in your estimation?
I mean, it's being humble. Always putting God first, staying conscious. I mean, we're saying you have to try to live it same way too, you know? So, because somebody always watching, the youth's always watching. I mean, I just it to me in a nutshell, you know, just being who you is, being humble, staying focused, you know, staying relevant.
I want to talk, I know it's a very touchy subject, because you talk about living to the music. I mean, I don't know how much that really impacts somebody, because as we talk about back in the day when we listening to dancehall and things, I'm not going out there and acting in a particular way. So it didn't really matter to me to whether the person who was singing it was living it. Mm-hmm. You know, very much so you hear a lot of times artists, they have a different lifestyle, and people say, well, how you could still listen to that person's music? You know, if you talk about, like, say, R. Kelly, for example, does that take away from the fact that nobody's saying, hey, what that man did was right? But does it take away from the fact that he had some good tunes?
I can separate the man and
that's what I'm saying.
I can
That's what I'm
separate
saying.
the man and
That's what I'm saying.
Facts.
Because the message at the end of the
message,
day, the message at the end of the
is
day.
the message, you know, not the messenger.
Is the message.
And so, but a big part of when we talk about reggae music and even Bob Marley and things, a big part of that would be the herb. But there's negativity as much as there's positivity around, and the coolness of smoking the herb. For those that do it and part of their lifestyle, there's also now a very much negativity when we talk about things like marijuana psychosis, which is where people are now taking it and re-engineering what is supposed to be a natural thing, and with the chemicals and everything to make it, to probably get you a better high, is now sending people literally into the madhouse.
Too fast.
I would say on that vein, so let me go back to the consciousness come up the road in terms of the artists. I look at a lot of reggae artists as a youngster coming up the road as musical prophets, right? To some degree. Meaning that they strike me with a level of spirituality and consciousness, and the music was always on a higher level, right? And they didn't go down the path, as we say, bossa wine, bossa split, farless gunman tune. It was always a certain type of a message. Now. So when I see the reggae artists, I see them as a conscious being. I see them as somebody who is mindful of themselves and the environment, you know what I mean? And they share a message to help uplift other people. It doesn't mean that they're perfect people, you know, but they tend to just resonate the more positive side of the world. Then you focus on the things that mankind really need to survive, as opposed to the things that help pull us back. You don't even talk about that, all right? And then in terms of marijuana, we got to be real, right? So like in Rip the Glue, like the paper, we might say it's a reggae program. Some people say, but it might be a marijuana program.
Yeah.
For me, Rip the Glue, I made it a point to fuse the two of them, which is reggae music and marijuana, because we're being hypocrites if we say marijuana has nothing to do with reggae.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a youngster growing up, I look at Bob Marley, and every single picture you see of Bob Marley growing up, most of them you have a spliff in his mouth, or he's just smoking something. However, Bob Marley's message was never to smoke marijuana. To me, I never got from Bob Marley growing up, boy, you had to smoke a marijuana, you had to smoke a herb, you had to smoke a herb. It was never that. His music was about a certain level of consciousness, and what I gathered was that the herb, as you put it, the herb helped and tied into the consciousness of what he was elevating himself on to bring the messages that he brought. So I am not going to knock someone that says, boy, I just smoke a herb when I take it in my thing, because to me, I tie in that into your consciousness. Now, going to what you're speaking to now is more the recreational side of where young people are, where marijuana use is concerned. People just smoking a weed. Because to be honest, nowadays, I would say marijuana today, or all them hard weed and them chemical drugs, is the cocaine of today.
Drugs.
Cocaine still exists, But the reality is that majority of younger people really more smoking marijuana than they would smoke the coke like the 80s and those days. So you see a lot more young people have the heavens blown, as you're describing, more or less, because of this marijuana today. Because as the old people would say, my father would say that as an old police, he would say, these youths are now, all the youths out here, the weed it had long time. It's not what it is today, right? So when you go through this chemical process that you were mentioning earlier on there, and a lot of these young people may not have been conditioned or whatnot, no two people react the same. No two people react the same to drinking alcohol. You know what I mean? Some person might take one drink and they head gone. And next person might be the whole bottle. So some of these youths now would realize that you're seeing people smoking your whole life, and what they would maybe doing 10 years, 20 years ago, and what's available now, it might be something different. And when you do decide to try it, your first try, you gone through.
And also overdo.
Not just overdo. Just like you mentioned, I know young people in Enterprise in Central. I see certain young people walking the road day by day. I talk about the heavens blown, and that is not cocaine.
Remember them not just smoking alone, sonny. Them smoking and drinking too.
Popping pills.
Popping everything. So them mash, just they're overdoing it.
Yeah.
They're mashing up the head.
Anything in excess is,
that's it.
Excess is too much.
I want, with that as a message about, like you said, what was in the past and what is now out there. Everything, are we saying then is everything in moderation, or is there, like you say, a messaging of in the music or in what you're doing, it's no longer connected specifically as it would have been in the past to sometimes maybe even religious beliefs. As you said, the recreation part of it, that it's now in many ways.
Yeah, do what you want. A lot of the world that we live in today is do what you want, and it's a big thing that we're not taking into consideration. We could talk all of these different topics. We could say what we think some of the problems are. The biggest problem I think people are not looking at is themselves. Nobody takes accountability anymore.
Thank you.
So
Victimhood.
it is easy to say the artist singing the wrong thing.
Easy to blame.
It is easy
Blame
to
the
say the
parents,
radio
the
station
government.
is not doing the right thing
Easy
no
to
more.
blame, yeah.
It's easy to say promoters don't bring the right artists for events no more. It's easy to say the government is not doing enough to keep the youths off of these things, but we're not blaming ourselves. We're not blaming our homes. Get started at home. The same way I could talk about music because I was brought up in a home that loved music. I don't have musicians in my home, but they listen to music, and I can tell you the music that was played in the home by me was music that I could still resonate to today and say, yeah, boy, I understand that message in that Marvin Gaye. You know what I'm saying? I could go and say, boy, I could go and talk about that Curtis Mayfield. I could talk about that Frank Sinatra. I could talk about Panorama. You know what I mean? Because these are things that I was culturally brought up on. You know, so when I have the opportunity to host the Calypso shows that I get to do, for instance, when we do the tribute to like Lord Kitchener recently, they have David Rudder coming up and whatnot. I enjoy doing those shows because I understood that music as a young man as well, because I heard that from my parents. You know what I mean? And they also would have instilled the importance of the music to me at the same time. So as I say, on a Sunday, you might either hear in my house, you go and hear either pan music. If my father washing the car, you go and hear pan music. That speaker box going outside and pan starting to strike up. One time went prum.
Is the image of that,
You understand? Pan
a
strike
speaker
up.
box and pan played.
I tell you, or if my mother catch it first because she decided she cooking early and he ain't getting that go with her car. As I say, it's Ella Andel going on the set. You know what I mean? Immediately because they wanted a certain vibe. And then we parents a long time used to put on religious stuff. You might have wake up in the morning and hearing some Donnie McClurkin in your house or something going on that kept you grounded. Nowadays, what we hear.
Interestingly, you know, enough, what would arrival that at the same time would be like, he gained them influences at home. And then he had to travel, whatever mode of transport to get to school. Like we assume you're coming from the east, you had to come out of Spain, right? In my case. And you're getting the right influences at home, but then you jump in a big maxi. Now, maxi culture itself was a whole next wave.
Dancehall, brother. I grew up on dancehall.
And I dub cassette.
Dub, yeah.
And coming through that era, it would be from conscious to actual parlor dub. That is the influence. So for the party and the enjoy the ride in the maxi, again, parlor dub.
Brother, it's Cutty ranks I grew up on.
Yeah. And then let's talk about how much men who's Rasta today that was influenced from reggae, from Capleton and Sizzler and Buju in that era. And they started to twist their head and wear the most badge.
That me. I come from Sizzler. I started twist up
I don't
from
gotta
Sizzler.
ask you who
I started twist up from Sizzler.
And
That
remember
make
the
me start to twist up.
parents and them didn't like that. If you don't have that in your family, you have a Catholic or Christian background, it come like you rebelling. So some of the same issues that we facing in a different incarnation here now, it existed before with another form of music. Reggae was that.
And let me look at this now, after we know through the maxi, right? Now, let me put in modern
Reggae was
times,
that.
right?
They used to fight it.
Let's look at the maxi as YouTube. When you're home in your parents' house, they fed you certain music and certain vibes, and you had to be in that order. You can't do what you want in the house. And only when you see a maxi or a little taxi, you get to free up yourself a little bit, right? Now, there are no stereos in the house. And the maxi taxi is now in the form of YouTube on everybody's phone. So what are you consuming the most? What you want. In other words, you are no longer influenced by the older generations directly unless you're in a car listening
But they
to
still
radio,
allow
right?
hard pong. I thought they'd stop that. You know what I mean? The hard pong and
That
maxi
kinda
and
died
thing.
down.
No, but I
phase
mean, I'm trying to say, forget
No,
the
but- yeah,
maxi
but you're
content.
right.
The maxi would have been YouTube before because it didn't have it before. And you would only get that in moderation, going and coming. Now, that maxi style is on your phone 24/7 in your possession. We have no more stereos in the house where parents dictate what is being played or program what is being played. So we now
you don't
have
have
the
a
opportunity
basis.
to just listen to maybe
Whatever.
more of one thing than the next. We're not balanced at all. You know what I'm saying? And that's also where the challenge would come in. So people have, again, that's where accountability comes in, because it really boils down to you. You are the one choosing what you are listening to. So you are feeding yourself that energy. So if you wake up in the morning, let me say you wake up in the morning, chances are you may not put on the biggest dancehall song, and we all love it. You may not put on the biggest dancehall song first thing in the morning because you know to yourself, that is not the vibe I want to start my day. Unless, you know, maybe you're getting ready for a certain kind of vibe.
Brother, is Alexa, play peaceful music.
You know, chances are you might...
So you saying that day, right? And not cut it here. Sometimes you jump in your car in the morning and you put on the radio. You hearing stupidness, boy.
And you wonder
why this hour they playing that?
Yeah. You had a point. Watch it. You had two on either side, you know.
So it boy.
You see this big word in TV and radio programming? That's why a lot of people heard it. Programming is a real thing, you know.
It could cost you, boy.
Yeah, of course. But
No.
Cost you. Get out your system, son. Get out your system. Get out.
I'll be professional today. I'll be professional.
No, but these are
Watch
some
you
of
have
the
beat for
things,
that, you know.
Some of the things
that
you're
beat.
dealing with. You're really dealing with the reality. As I said, that the control is now directly in everybody's hands, and you have the choice what it is you want to hear when the day is on, and what mood that you're in. That's all upon you, and it's really you to be hold accountable for that.
You know, as we talk about music and even manhood, right? The other day, the teacher called me and she said, you know, your son, they were looking through the dictionary words and they saw the N word, and he looked at his colleague and he went, "Oh, is that you?"
Right.
Right? And so she called me aside and she was like, "Well, you know, because he had purple skin and thing. The parent might get digger horrors. And I said, let me tell you what my thoughts are on that. I said, it is definitely at 9 not coming from a place of racism. It is coming from the fact that all his family, his friends and all them, they listening to the Kodak Blacks and all these artists because, again, like you said, he's moving in an environment with family especially that are older than him, who are now listening to the trendy rap artists and all them away, who are using that word because, again, it's not the like you see how you asked me if it could cuss. It's not the vetted version. It's not the radio version. They listen to the raw, where all the words and all the cussing and thing is coming up. But that's not something that they're gonna share because children also know what is wrong and right in many ways, and they're not sharing that with you because they listen to what is their own cool music. So to them that is part of the lingo. That is part of the music. So when you come now and you're in a classroom setting and you see that in a dictionary, to you is like, okay, well, that is what this artist who I follow and listen to and feel cool about singing all of the time. So how do you now bridge the gap between what we know as quote unquote responsible parenting to now, because that boy is now going to become a man at certain point. We ourselves who are also still in that zone, because we're now trying to show them what is better, but at the same time we are still listening to the music. And as we spoke about what is nostalgic to us and what we grew up in, when you listen to them lyrics, brother, you ask yourself, this is why I was chanting and bubbling and all these kind of things too. But we're now trying to, raise quote unquote men and boys. You of course we only have sons. To be better, but as in music, and like you said, I cannot control to an extent when they leave the home.
When they leave the house.
Yeah.
What they listening to.
I think it's really a case of understanding music, you know what I mean? Because we can't escape it, you know. If you feel you go and police in your own home, as I said, from the time you walk out, they put on YouTube or they could get you somebody else's phone.
His sensitivity is still there because his comment is like me see the fact that the teacher had to call me, right? But at the same time, the sensitivity around the norm is what I'm talking about. It's a norm now. Why we still getting sensitive?
I think the conversations need to be had. We need to be more intentional about directing and instructing the youths in what they're getting involved in, what they're singing. Like, we understand that's the trend, that's all the young people think. We understand it because we've been through it. But we now have to actually be real and straight with them and say, listen, this thing could have dangerous consequences, real world consequences that you're not prepared to deal with, should that lifestyle actually meet you. Because I don't know if you all ever been DDI and see all these uptown youths, light skin, whatever, and they're singing Trinidad full. Lyric for lyric,
because
word for word.
It's the cool thing.
Right. But what, do you see them in those spaces where what they're singing about could become real? They don't take those chances. So we also need to instruct and guide our youths. Listen, controlled environments, listen to your thing, whatever. But don't dare. Step further, you know what I mean?
Proper guidance, like you are saying.
I 100% agree, but it's something you said even at the start, where you said in singing of this music, and I don't want us to focus too much on Trinidad and Steam and all the rest of it, because there's so many in all genres. They have their versions of that, singing those. The Taylor Swift something always singing about some breakup, and so it all has some negative influence as far as I'm concerned.
Song saying I crash my car into a bridge.
Yeah, so every genre has it.
That damage it.
But because
at
home,
literally,
we focusing on it a bit more. But you said it when some of this music started. It wasn't the intent wasn't for the violence and to be negative.
And that's why I said we had to understand the music and keep it real. The music is not going to go anywhere. We cannot sensitize or censor the music as we would love to. It's free on the internet, and you can find any version of the music that you want.
Like porn.
It's about it's about educating the youths and letting them know that music is music, and you don't have to live the music. So I'm not going to tell you don't listen to this or don't listen to that. You listen to what you want to listen to. That's
listen, just like they could put on a cigarette package and tell you how dangerous this is and all the consequence. We need
graphics and all, and you still
graphics and all, and you will still go and buy.
So there's no point. So
as an adult man, you will still go and buy.
Us as parents and elders, you know what I mean, and which is this that you could go ahead, Paulo. I really can't stop you, but it is still my duty to inform you that take it. Okay, my eldest is 19 years old and she in a lineman space now. You know, you're starting to go out a little more and whatnot. And this happened just yesterday we had this conversation. And I said to my daughter, I said, sweetheart, I realize you're lineman a little bit more of late now. You know, starting to go out there and you have friends and whatnot. And chances are you will have friends that are older than you, which means in the line you may see things that people are doing that you may not have done yet or even not involved in, maybe same drinking, smoking, sexual activities, you name it. However, I would hope, and this is a genuine conversation. I said, sweetheart, I have no problem with you doing what you want to do in terms of going out and lineman and seeing the world for what it is, and I am not worried. I have full trust in you. However, I just want to remind you to be mindful. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, the choices that you make are going to be your choices. I am not there with you, and I am not going to come and police. I have to let go of your hand again, older. So I have to let go of your hand knowing that you're entering into the real world, but I can still only remind you to be mindful. Yeah. So in essence, the music will be there. The violence will be there. The drugs will always be there. The crime will be there.
Challenge, though,
you have to make the choice for yourself and know what you are getting involved in.
Your voice will always be there.
Correct.
And that's what
my parents tell me. My mother, this day, my mother would say that all the time. She said, no matter what, you could say your mother is talk plenty. But you could never say your mother never say. So to me, I will always impart what I have to impart onto my children. You could make your mistakes because you're a human being.
Because daddy will always be there to pick up the pieces and so on, but daddy can always mend. Because when you, like you say, be mindful to be mindful, you may make a choice that you were there to support, but you now have to live with it because it's certain things you can't reverse. And I think that's real good advice.
So people have to learn to sift and choose what they want. And that's what I said earlier in terms of
you also have to learn to learn in certain circumstances.
I don't believe you always have to learn to learn. And that's where we deal.
Not always, but in certain cases, as boys especially, as boys and girls, of course, people think differently. And boys, in many cases, a lot of times you have to really stick your finger in that socket to realize, even though they tell you could get shot. That's how we learn. That's what we learn. And I mean, if you answer was a give you probably science behind it. But that thinking. But again, I know you're going to tell me like a rake are going all over the place, but I want to come back to, as we talk about the music and the manhood. Yeah. And before we go to a break, there's a huge part of what drives you, Isasha, which is there's that brotherly love and how you keep your brother alive in the music and even singing a lot of his, very, very, very popular tracks. I want to talk a bit about what that means to you and where you garner your thoughts and to sing the lyrics and what it means to you every time you go out and perform. And of course, you have a concert coming up.
I mean, when it comes to my brother, I well kind of sensitive now because we grew up in a house where it's 5 of us, all of us sleeping in one room. All of us sharing, me and he sleeping together, my next brother, my next sister sleeping together, my father and my mother sleeping together. Me and Million went every school together. He was just 2 years older than me, 3 years older than me, but I was always young Million or young Cutter, young Sleepy. So the relationship we had was different. I love all my siblings. Love every one of them. But the relationship me and Million had was more close than when we started to sing, travel. And I always say Million was an angel because like he knew he was going to pass. The conversations Million will hold with me is real different. Real different. I just see it in his kids. And by me going out there and performing every single time, I must sing something for him. Because again, the relationship, that brotherly love now, boy, that we going and shop together for we children. That kind of way it's a secrets Million have for me that nobody will never know. I have secrets to my brother nobody will never know, and I will go down with it same way. That kind of way. I just get really emotional when I'm touching on this topic now, but I really truly love my brother to my heart and soul, and I will always keep his music alive.
I want to interject with this one too. When we did the Prophet Benjamin show a few weeks ago, right? You were performing, and in the midst of the performance, you did a Million. You bring up your normal thing, you pull out a million voice, etc. And there was a point where you found that the crowd didn't give you the response you wanted, right? And you say, well, I'm telling you about it, like, only forget million hour. What was that feeling like in that moment? Because I studied, you know me, I like all your bad, right? You know that man like all your bad. So I was there and I was like, he pulled for you million and he started, you know me, I like me 11, I like my million.
Yeah.
So when you started and you didn't get the response initially that you wanted,
That was with the one family.
I didn't know what song it exactly was, but you said we did that particular one, and he's like, hey, like only forgetting million hour.
Yeah.
What that feeling was in the point? Is it that you just say like only forgetting million hour, or is that you literally had a feeling like, yo, what's going on here? What was that feeling? And is it the first time you got that? Because the first time I heard it and saw it actually, but what was that?
Not really, that was just in the moment, the boy, Sonny boy. Probably the crowd just didn't give me the response I wanted, and that came out. But when I said that, the
crowd activated
the
after that. But I wasn't even thinking about the crowd. I was thinking about you personally.
Because sometimes it's got to shake them up too.
Yeah.
No,
But is it a shake them up, or is it at that point, is it that the connection in terms of your brother, is it like a personal moment?
That's what I meant.
Always,
so when he said in terms of, how hard you try or you work to make sure and keep him alive and all that you do, when that moment came to me and where you said it's like, is it to me in your head on the stage is like are you really
forgetting
my
brother,
man?
yeah,
Or was that,
yeah.
to me it was like that was the feeling
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
had now.
yeah,
Like wait now, there actually came a time when I sing a million and the crowd answer back had enough boy. That was the feeling I got now. Like I wonder if that's what the man feel, right? Like is it being lost now? Like did you feel that on the stage was my thought? Not forget the crowd. As in your feeling that when you said that, was it that you felt like, who's that one boy?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Or don't forget my brother.
It's that self.
That was, I was always going to ask you that be on the show because I saw that and I felt that I was right there watching it. I was like, I wonder if that was because I balled it hard in the back, man. Like, so wait, nobody wasn't balling as hard as me, or what happened there, right? Because I don't think that like they forget any man or like.
But they could have been balling that. But to you at the point, you were just in a moment and in an emotional zone where to you it's probably, hey, what going on here? Is he being lost? Is his memory being lost? And you need that in order to keep the
That is my
spirit
job,
alive
and
within
that
you.
is my job there. So my job was to get them back in line. Hey, all they don't forget the man, You understand? Yeah.
And I got that
All they do
energy
forget
out there.
it.
In Sasha defense though, right? I feel what has happened because I've seen it happen a number of times. His delivery on those songs sometimes and how he execute them songs. You will almost forget sometimes his million song.
But I'm telling
Because
you,
remember a lot of them, both of them on the track.
Yeah.
And then some when he do like 11 nights, 11 days is a rhythm. He on the rhythm, million and rhythm. And if he don't stop to say million, they will just keep the same energy
a lot of times
that they gain him all the
don't
time.
know. You tell yourself,
You understand?
hey,
It's just be smooth.
So that is why in between that, I will tell them, let me sing this for million.
Well, all right.
You understand?
Yeah.
And just keep them ready because,
But you can see how people will forget.
Yes.
but
And
you
just
will,
take
but
it
you
as
will know
your...
to yourself that, because one of my questions would have been like, your brother looking at you, would he say, hey, I am proud of you, feel that you're flying the flag and keeping that standard up there? And the answer, even though you mean, because of course, the love for your brother, but to the audience and to people, they're looking and saying, brother, you up there, you matching that tone. And because of that, as Stryker said, it could even feel the difference between the million voice and you is not being realized if you don't interject and say the actual word. But before we go to our break, just real quick, I want to find out, and I always wanted to ask you this even in all the conversations we've had, the style of how you do it. Because I mean, you understand? You know how to get at at some point in the show, though.
And you see, that natural, that so natural is a shame. And I tell people now, plenty people don't even know that Million could do the same thing. Same thing why doing, he could do it. That rule tongue, he could do the same thing.
Let me get a little thing now. Let me get a little.
Tell them, say,
That's because nobody else could do it. You can't replicate it. You know, many times you're singing your tune at home or you play it in the car or something like that. And I realize by doing the whole thing, and I realize by not sewing. If this radio only come off here, I saw like I
You know, as a
saw like
DJ,
I
right?
regurgitated.
His song used to give us a lot of static because I one of these songs you had to play to the end just for that part. Got to put that to the end. You can't even cut and mix that properly.
Yeah, but now, before the break, the man asked about the concert. When is the show? Talk things now.
All right, the show is the 25th of July. We head into Songforge. South is love, but we leave from South and we head into Songforge this year, 25th of July. The reflection of the journey, me and all my friends.
And in a lot of the conversation that we've had, what can people expect in terms of, as we talk about the resurgence, as we talk about prominence, and even things that you've realized here today? Is it coming to that concert? Would those things be addressed? Like what is that? We know it's gonna be best. We know that.
The show really is an experience, you know. I want to tell people to come out and really experience this experience here because it's a journey. It's from starting from 53, from the streets, from party time, come straight up, you know. Again, we had to make sure and always plug Million in the show, so we have something special for Million in the show. They just come out and support. This show I really do in the show is for a staple. I believe, just how you say it before, the reggae music could stand up on its own. And the 2 years I did this show in South, I was real proud.
Take me to the break with a piece of track now.
I turn a deaf ear to negative. I turn a blind eye to bad mind. Blabber mouth get discredited. You keep your nose in your business and not mine. So work hard at your mission and learn to keep your movements private, cause success breeds envy. And when you progress, people now go like it. Make nobody tell you can make it in life. Stay focused on your goal, cause Jah is in control.
So this is Manhood, and we're discussing music and manhood. So Robert, just before the break, you were asking or you're discussing, you don't have to dread to be Rasta. Give me the question properly when you want to find out the ball head.
Well, that's right. You might go to my roof. You might go to my roof loft again, boy. I said, you know, almost make me feel like I don't want to ask the question again. You know what I mean? So any song, as we talk about, you know, you don't have to dread to be Rasta. And many songs use that particular lyric. But does the reggae culture really allow for personal choice and expression? Is what I really want to find.
Me personally, I would say yes at this time. I think the music has come full circle where it's more about the love than the image. You know what I mean? More the understanding. We know plenty bald head now who had red before. To be honest, there are a lot of men with bald head now who was big Rasta man and then age take over.
Oh, you see man taking it now and...
Yeah, look at Beanie Man. Beanie Man have a hairstyle about 5 years now. He ain't letting go that hairstyle because maybe he has something going on that we don't know. Maxi Priest and all have a nice birdness and a landed strip easy. Buju have a landed strip and just not giving up the dread. So at the end of the day, life happens.
Bling.
I'm not lying. I'm not talking the truth. I'm talking things we see.
No, but it's how we say it, eh? You
Yeah, so
don't
normal.
say bird's nest and landed strip.
We're talking the truth.
Can't grow all around all the fellas at all.
So to me, I think the hairstyle part of it or the dread is not...
Yeah, that gone. That's how they
It's
do.
not really
Right.
an issue anymore. I think it's about who you are as an individual, keeping it real. Because we know real man who have big dread are eating pork and not
No,
upholding the order, and a big dread who just more into
You're not going in KFC everything too?
Yeah, you know, they're more into style and fashion more than
No, but
anything
simple.
else. So.
The boat rides, them reggae boat rides just show you the type of people that come out and support reggae music. You don't see plenty Rastas out there on them boat ride.
You actually see a
But
lot
you're
of
still
women
constant
too.
talk. Everybody
Plenty
more Rasta
women.
than
A
the
lot
next
of
one.
women.
Plenty.
Yeah.
No, but to wrap up, I think this genre and many genres of music, but even reggae and more so reggae, You had to ask yourself the question: is it inclusive or exclusive? It has always been inclusive. It's not an exclusive thing.
Always.
Unless you're in a specific zone and you're going up in the 12 tribe and you chant in
Right,
Nayabingi. You know what I mean? Those type of things is for that.
No, but yet
But
still you
beyond that,
still
the
see-
message, the universal message in the songs and the music is inclusive.
Yeah.
It's for everybody.
And you'll see now, though, more than before, that even when you mention the whole marijuana reggae thing, more now is more the music than the marijuana. Because we have, as I said, when you go to a boat ride, you go to a reggae event, more or less, it's no longer about just a man go to a reggae because they want to smoke a weed. You have people who just genuinely love reggae. They don't even smoke at all. It has nothing to do with smoking. They are just in love with reggae music for the vibe, the energy, what it brings out of them, what they feel, the positive nature of it as well too. And that's what people really come out to support. So it's no longer about being a Rasta man to some. It's already a case of I really love the vibe of this music. I love what it brings out of me. I love what it brings out of people. The happiness, the connectivity.
If you're talking the livelihood side of it too.
You can't be angry and you can't be
No, that is so
human.
true. That is so true.
So on the flip side of that, there's also apart from you do have to be Rasta, and we had a quick one about that, where you hear the woman is the empress, right? But yet still there's also that perception of multiple partners. So the woman, the empress, will sort of, to me, would be that she's the only one, and she's the valued one. But yet still, if there's an image of you having multiple partners, then what are our thoughts on that? And what's the view of the woman nowadays in the particular reggae culture? Not talking about Rastafarian, but in the reggae culture. If we're following that trend of that thought process, of you might just like the vibes.
I watched Isasha because
Well,
I
I
can't
watch it.
recall.
Yeah, everybody trying to
I
skate
can't recall
up,
what's that.
ask any question.
I can tell you about that in soca.
I don't know what's wrong with first. So I just kind of watch around the room. But
Right.
for me, I would say that I don't think that is something that's really prominent in reggae
it's
music.
not.
I think if it's one thing I have gathered from reggae music is the uplifting of women.
Yeah.
Rastaman and Conscious Man is really laying a woman is boss, and they put them on a pedestal, and
give
we
them
love
nice
woman, and woman before man, and you know what I'm saying. So I don't really get the promiscuity in reggae, if you want to put it that way. But the uplifting and love for women is one thing you know for a fact. Is if you want to say, boy, reggae is marijuana, okay, reggae is loving woman. You know, it says that outright in the music, you know what I mean? And a lot of artists actually make sure to promote their love for women in reggae music. You know what I mean? You see Prophet Benjamin recently in the show, I keep saying Prophet because he had a recent show. So in Prophet Benjamin's show, you know what I mean? Same thing you would see on the stage and the way he's operate. And then, for instance, a man like Warrior King, for instance, whose wife is actually a Trini. You know what I mean? He would have his shows and he brings out on stage and he's always, you know, just make sure and put that in the message as well, as in, you know, how important it is for a king to have a queen and how important it is to love your empress and how important it is to love the family. And that's something you get out of reggae music as well. A lot of positivity, which is general consciousness, loving God, loving yourself, loving your family, you know what I mean, being a productive individual. These are the kind of things, the messages you get out of the music now. So the promiscuity side I ain't too sure about in the reggae. But
contrast,
the love for
Although
women.
you know Bob had many.
Yeah. But he kept that under, you know, control to an extent.
So, but again, the respect of the women was never seen as, you know, you treating a woman in a bad way. It's just that you might be a
You know the biggest
a
disappointment for
romantic
me in
story.
reggae, to be honest, along them lines, when I used to like, what the hell going on here, was when Sizzla went down that dancehall road in the earlies. There had a point in time where Sizzla would pump up her, pump up. I really remembered saying, I am no longer going to listen to Sizzla. Because I was a big Sizzla fan, and to me,
Fine was a
From Black
disrespect.
Woman and Child to that.
for a man who had me on a certain conscious trajectory
God
that I
against,
was
yeah.
following, personally, I was like, I really like Sizzla vibes, boy. To that slew them with karate, pump up the as they say. I was like, where Sizzla going?
Yeah, you done
You know
lost
what I mean?
immense.
It's like, where you going, brother? Was that, as in, I thought you were, you know what I mean? You as I say, you might call the fellas some level of prophet in the music.
Yeah.
So to like, where you going? So that was shocking to me. But
What did you note if you did into like how we speak about music and manhood and how music influences the behaviors of people depends on the music that you're listening to? Did you see that? Was it a response from maybe many of his fans? Did they drop off or did they adapt or did they move towards that during that period? Because he's gone back conscious.
Well, I think at the end of the day, as human beings, you know, you go through phases. So maybe at that point in time, you was testing the music, and that's similar to what we're seeing now. A lot of young people would rather go with what is more trendy than what they more believe in. You know what I mean? So a lot of people singing music that they don't really 100% believe in now, because they don't believe it don't go as viral. So as much as a lot of men might want to sing conscious music, but if boy, the radio and the people and they going for that conscious boy, so they have the conscious in them,
You know, if you think about that same song that you referenced just now, he ain't lie, he ain't say nothing that every normal conscious Rasta ain't doing. If you say pump up a so says lying having sex.
Yeah. I know, but it
but
was
the
just
raw is how raw and direct
you
come with
you
that.
put people in different places
So
and spaces.
he just deliver it different. You know what I mean? He come
Yeah.
out of the pocket that
Yeah, but we want to go back to the real conscious e-commerce and things like that. We want to go back to the real.
I think he just come out of the box for a moment. He just come out of the box for a moment and give us something
I
different.
mean, he did something different. He tested the waters, and he realized, of course, it robbed the market a certain kind of way. It didn't take away from him being a prolific performer, but at the same time, like, I don't think we are ready for this yet, Sizzler. I don't think, at this time. You know, and I came back 2 years past. I come back. I'm an artist. I like the vibe.
So start back to listening.
Stop. You take him back. You take back the prodigal.
And what come back?
Oh God.
What you know come up with brother.
No filter.
As a matter of fact, Adonai was on the show, but he was on the show as
like two different people they talking about.
Yeah. So
Daniel was on your show.
Daniel was on the show.
Right. You didn't invite Adonai, no.
On the show, the first time I actually lost some words, But
come here, Mama, guy in you tonight. You see, just like Sizzler, anything I just said, I bring real examples, brother. I don't need to offend or disrespect anybody, but I know when I describe something, you want to see it.
No, you understand exactly what
you
see it. Correct, yeah. So generally, I want to come full circle to the music, reggae music in particular, that the prominence is still very much there. There are certain things that, of course, need to change. The visualization may be one of it, that we've not really missed the boat. We just need to bring back some of the particular messaging in how we put out that music. And when I say messaging, not the messaging in the music, the messaging around putting out the music. Because I think there are many songs that have positive messaging, but for us, I'm talking about in Trinidad and Tobago, it was always reggae. Reggae to me was always the one that would really be when you sing it. Like I have no problem my son singing any Bob Marley, and when I hear him the other day asking me to play Alexa come up, like you say, you don't have stereos, you have the little box. A little speaker, Alexa play this, right? And he's saying Alexa play Three Little Birds. Or one of my favorites is Zimbabwe, and you hear those songs. I have no issues with him playing that music. Right now, I would like to challenge him to say, but this has been a real on so many levels, and I know you're talking about raking, but from a perspective of trying to digest so much of the conversation that has happened. That is actually probably my alarm saying time to pick up the child.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So time to wrap up basically this particular episode, but it's really been one that I'm going to ponder and reflect to, and you said your own understanding, and a lot of times it's your own mirror, because so many times we blame the music. And yes, the music isn't helping, but it's my choice when to listen to the music. It's my choice whether I act out on what the music is saying, and also to control in a certain way when, in this case, my son listens to music, that he understands, as you said, about the what's the word he used? The accountability, but you didn't use the accountability. You said when your daughter goes out, she has to be mindful of the mindful, to be mindful, which is something I'm definitely going to use. So I'm looking from you, Sonny, for playlists, right? And I'm taking that might be mindful. To be mindful. I'll take.
I think, in all dread, I think the way the world is now, where we at, it is going to be very difficult to say that we need to put this particular genre back on top or that particular genre back on top. I think every artist needs to continue doing exactly what they're doing. If you consider yourself a conscious artist, you consider yourself a positive artist, keep being just that and keep putting out the work. And the people that need to find you will find you.
Yeah. But like Stryker said, remind people it's entertainment.
Again, I think we are at the point
It's
where
not a war cry.
we don't need to do all of that anymore. I think it's just people trying to be lazy and trying to always have a finger to point at somebody else. Point a finger at yourself. It's your choice. You made your choices.
But if you're in a vulnerable state, like you're listening to music growing up, there's not, in order to know right and wrong, you must have someone who guides you.
Let me open up all your mind to something, right? Because he said you make a choice. And there are instances, many instances, there are communities of people who didn't make a choice. They are actually living the consequence of an older brother or their father and just where you're from because you're born there and what your brother do. So there are some people who don't even have a chance to actually go out and do a course. The government might have something in Port of Spain.
It's like
And
Isasha
you
said,
can't
the Trinidad.
take that chance to go out there
And
and do a course to better yourself because you're from. So, and you go out there and they see you because they know who your brother is. Remember, lives are lost on both sides. So it's a much bigger problem than we actually think. And it's not always a choice. There are people who are living the consequence of other people's choices.
Life is a choice, and I'll agree to disagree with you on that, meaning that as much
You
as
would be Sonny if you didn't.
no bad boy, see that's me. I could
I get it.
So at the end of the day, I understand and agree with that, but here's the choice you're also making too. The choice is to stay in the position. Meaning, chances are, if you step out and go to this Port of Spain to try this thing that you mentioned, something could happen to me. But that is something that could happen to me in me trying to be a better person. So do I risk trying to be a better person and falling by the wayside because of whatever else going on in the past? Or do I just sit here and just say there's nothing else I can do because of the things that happened to me? You know what I mean? So everything in life is really a choice. Now, I might make it sound nice and palatable here on the people TV, and somebody might say, "Boy, Bling, know what you're talking about." But at the same time, to me, any and everything that we do in this life boils down to choice. You know what I'm saying? As an individual.
But choice of me sitting down here saying, hey, I could make a choice to go and study or do a different job is different than somebody having to make a choice to say, okay, this is life or death, literally. Me making a choice not to be in this environment, to not have to be part of this because I need to eat, or if I don't, this could also happen to me, is a bigger decision. I mean, I think we could at least agree on that.
I agree on that. What me, I have friends who I know personally. I went to school with and thing, and they could barely come out of their yard. I mean, because of how
So the challenge is not that it's impossible. It's just very, very difficult. So now you might have to leave Port of Spain and you might have to go San Fernando to go and better yourself.
Your level of choice is
it boils down to that choice, Look, for instance,
but not everybody equipped to do that. Not everybody, you know what I mean?
How many stories have you heard about, let's say, a woman that might have been in an abusive relationship with that man, and the woman disappeared, and she right in Trinidad right here, and the man can't find the woman. She made a choice to get out of the madness. You know what I'm saying? You could have stayed right there and say, no matter where I go, you might find me. But you could also go out there and say, maybe you can't find me. So we had
to figure it out.
You had to figure it out. Life is something that is a journey. It's a journey, and of course, it's the destination always make the arrival so important. It's not where you're going, it's where you're so studying, it's the things you do along the way. And as they say, if you stop and pelt a stone at every dog that bark at you, then you go and reach where you're going. So at some point, you have to make up your mind, you know what? Them bag of dogs in front, I go and try and run through, I might get bite. But I ain't going to stop because I want to go somewhere. You know what I mean? I can't hold back. You know what I mean? Because if I had not thought about it originally in school days when my father tell me, boy, you make sure and get 5 passes without a full certificate, all you can't do nothing, and I leave school with 2 passes. Then I'm not supposed to be here right now. Based on
5 cowl kind of thing.
The point is that you have to make a choice, boy. You have to make a choice. Life within itself is not easy.
True.
Life is not forgiving.
Here's a question
and the older
to you, because I agree with what you're saying. But are these things being said loud enough to counterbalance what is going on out there?
Are you saying it loud enough to yourself is my question.
So here it is.
Come on.
Say it loud enough as your closing thoughts to that camera.
My closing thoughts?
Your closing thoughts. You could say it loud enough. You could express what you need to express.
Well, you take away from this discussion, a very healthy discussion, is that, and to tie into your concept of manhood, is that as men, we really need to embrace that responsibility and ask ourselves, what is required of me based on my situation? Because my situation will be different, similar but different from Sash, very different from Sonny. We all have different resources. So we have to look at the cards that we have. You could only play the hand you dealt, until you change your hand.
True.
So you have to look at what you have, see what you're missing, figure out what you need, and charter your way forward. It's not an exact science, and it's going to be very difficult We're going to fall, we're going to come short, you'll get broken, they'll go fight you down, they'll go say, is this, is that. But at the end of the day, manhood and being a man, you have to embrace that personal challenge. And it's a personal journey as well.
Journey.
You understand? And chart your course and just run.
I would say be real with yourself. My big word is accountability. You know what I mean? At some point, you need to be able to sit with yourself. A lot of people are afraid of themselves. So I would say it's good to try and sit with yourself and ask yourself the tough questions I mentioned earlier on. You know, what do you want for yourself? Where do you see yourself? What is good for you? What is bad for you? And when you answer some of these questions, if you can or not, find somebody that is 10 times better than you is what I would also say. So it doesn't have to be a professional, but it might be a businessman in the area that you know started small and is now a big businessman that may be able to guide you and ask a question. Too many of us are afraid to ask questions and afraid of the answers that we may get based on the question. So like I told my son as well, just recently we were having a conversation about some stuff that he had to get done and he didn't do the best at it because he tried to do it all by himself. I was like, hey, why didn't I ask so and so for some help? He said, boy, they would have tell me no. And I said, son, the answer will always be no until you ask the question. Until you ask a question from somebody. So if you want somebody to assist you or you want betterment in some scenario, the answer will always be no from that person until you ask them. So you don't know the answer until you ask the person. So you need to say, hey, can you help me? And let them say no. Or let them say, sure, I can help you. But if you don't ask, the answer is no. So we need to look at ourselves and say, you know what I need to make me better, boy? And who maybe I can speak to make me a better person. I've said this on this program before. I went to counseling already. I went and sat down with psychiatrists already during the course of the pandemic because I wanted to know what I needed to do to be able to survive this pandemic and this tough time I was going through. And I believe saying no in a bar with a brethren was not going to give me the answer. So I decided to spend $600 an hour to speak to a professional to get the right answer. Now, somebody listening to this might say, wait, $600 an hour, boy? You all that money spent to talk to a man? But I look at this as an investment in myself. And then you have to ask yourself how much you love yourself. I love myself enough to invest $600 an hour with a professional conversation that would say, hey, you're going about what you're going about right, or maybe you're doing it wrong, or I like the way you're sounding. And we need to come to a point where you get away from all that rum shop talk, you get away from all that brethren talk, because your brethren can only take you as far as he has been.
True.
You know what I mean? He only knows as much as that. So if you line with people that are literally on your level, they cannot carry you to step 2. So we need to start looking for people who are on step 5 while we're on step 1. You need to also tell yourself if you are the biggest fish in your pond, then you can't really go anywhere because nobody else could guide you. You need to go back to being the guppy in the big pond at some point in your life. So when you hit that stumbling block, like, okay, I bad in my area, boy, I had the hustle down, I get my little car, I get a little thing, but I want to go out there and grow more, but I don't know how to do that because of the crime, the violence. My brother ended up getting murdered some time ago, and that's a stigma on me. How do I move from here? Then you need to make up your mind to say, you know what? I need to go back to being a small fish in a big pond and find a big fish that I can relate to, that can maybe guide you and carry you to that direction. So accountability is my big word.
I want Isasha to close off, of course, not just on his thoughts, but maybe a little million voice. He wants that they clearly in his estimation, they didn't listen to or didn't react enough. So we want him to close off on that. But I would just say that so much has been said that there's really not much more to say, but people who say that will still say something, so I'm still going to say something. To say that, in touching what you said there, Sonny, in many cases, if you aim for nothing, you're going to be on target every time. Find your tribe, make the right choice, and I know a lot of times people may be looking on and saying, yeah, it's easier said than done, or they could say that. But the truth is, we always know what the right thing to do is. And if you know what the right thing to do, then do the right thing. And if the tribe you're in at that point is not assisting you or benefiting you or pushing you in that right direction to do that, then change the tribe. They say if you can't change the people, change the people. And like you said, with your friends, people around you, they have their own glass ceiling. They can't take you to a place that they have not been. And the only way to do that is for you to venture out there. Sometimes the pastures are greener on the other side. Sometimes. Gentlemen, Isasha, you would have the last words, and then if you don't mind,
Let's say so much there, yo. Or let's say so much. I mean, a great listener is a great learner. I learned plenty here today. Bling, I'm really proud of you too. From From which part I see you come from to where he is now. I'm really proud of you, honestly. I mean, just to the youths and them out there, yo, all they just put God first in everything all they're doing, yo. I mean, if all the circle really leading all the wrong way, change up that circle, you know. Don't be no follower, always be a leader. I just always try to show my sons and them that, you know, always try to preach that in their head every day, you know. Pray, learn God. We need to bring back God more in the homes. And as Sonny say, we have to blame ourselves too, because if we as the parent and them in showing them the right thing, then what will they do? You know, so, I mean, just put God first in everything all they do. Love what all they're doing. You know, trust and believe that there is a way out of anything. As Stryker say, we had to figure it out. So, find a way to figure it out, you know. And the crime, to me, ridiculous. We need to bring back some kind of love in the place. And I will just end it off with this. A family that pray together, stay together. No for them what interrupt we like a bad weather. Tell them that we bond down like a glue until leather. Uja bless, no man put asunder. Them see you moving up in life and they don't like that. Fulfilling your purpose on this earth and them can't take that. Them will do all sorts of things to remove that. In Jah holy name, I promise to rebuke that. Tell them we are all one family, standing firm as a family. Together we will conquer the enemy. Together we will conquer the enemy. Tell them we are all one family, standing firm as a family. Together we will conquer the enemy. Together we will conquer the enemy.
I do wrong song.
That's my own mix. That's my own mix. This is Manhood.
It's the Fire Princess. Now put it. Be keeping it real, you know. Amina! Triumph and victory, I. Countless time, I'ma try for this, the IRASDA, and I still them can't prevail, when I and I. Ja, Rastafari, Charlie for us, say, my youth could have rain, no sunny man, not born ready, my youth could have rain, no sunny fire princess born ready pon me face, none smile me no laugh. Full suit a cocky pon me feet, bubble sanna, bubble chant broom, done ready for the chaff ya. Chant na ya bingy word sound and lava. Groundation done said nothing after. So me na go join politician and Carter. Ya mad? Rastafari is the highest of order. So me na go pan nothing put it on paper to say my youth could have rain no sun if I am my born ready. My youth could have rain no sunny then. I mean, oh, we see them in them cheat. We don't listen and never they speak. Cause them hearty full of deceit. Righteousness people on a beat. Now you're being on me beat. Like job blessing whenever we cheat. Let's take a second to receive. Every crevice and every crease. Up tongue, down tongue and every border. And stop sell your children like lamb to the slaughter. Rastafari is more than a brother. Fathers, teach it to your sons, mothers, your daughter to say my youth could have rain no sunny man not born ready. My youth could have rain no sunny then. I mean, triumph and victory, I. Countless time, I'ma try for this, the IRASDA, and I still them can't prevail, and I. Ja, Rastafari, Charlie for
Manhood, brought to you in part by Lucas Aid and Solomon's Bespoke.